NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play. What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bring your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. Okay, so before we dive in and talk about the last couple games for the Nets and so on and so forth, you might be saying to yourself, though I strongly doubt it because probably most of you, if not all of you, don't care, but you might be saying, NetsBoy, where the hell are you? That doesn't look like the same setting that you normally do your NetsBoy episodes. And the answer is that's because it's not. Holiday season, NetsBoy went home to visit his parents and stay with his parents for the holidays. So this is actually my childhood bedroom because where else would I stay when I'm visiting my parents? But anyway, so that's why the room looks different. That's why the background is different. Not that, like I say, I think anyone should really care, but I just wanted to point that out just in case you were curious while watching the video why everything looks different behind me. But yeah, I had to do an NetsBoy episode though. I felt like this is the time to do it with that nice, 4 days between the games going into, Christmas Day and this and that. And I said I have to do a NetsBoy, but like I said, at my parents' house, so I just packed up my mediocre and crappy computer and my crappy editing equipment and my crappy everything and my jersey and my hat and my glasses, packed it all up, brought it to my parents, and here I am filming the NetsBoy episode. So I just wanted to clarify that. Actually, if you look at some of the older NetsBoys, the older ones, this was actually the original setting of my NetsBoy videos years and years ago before I moved out of my parents' house, because that's what I did. I've been doing these NetsBoys for 7 years now, and I'm not even joking. I just figured that out the other day, that I've been doing this for 7 years, which is unbelievable because I still only have like 50 viewers of video at the most, despite having 147 subscribers. Yes, I keep track of those things. That's what you do when you do YouTube, anything, because this is ultimately a hobby that I enjoy to do. But I've been doing it for 7 years. So anyway, but this is where I used to do the settings. This is the setting I used to do the NetsBoy videos way back. If you happen to still be a subscriber from way back then and you're still viewing, you knew that already probably. But I think most of my subscribers and viewers are relatively new, so they might be wondering why is the background different. But anyway, okay, enough of that. That has nothing to do with the Nets at all. Just a classic NetsBoy irrelevant tangent that happens a lot. All right, let's talk Nets. Okay, let's talk about a couple things. So the Nets played 5 games since my last NetsBoy episode, and during that stretch they went 3-2, and that's kind of what I expected them to do. They started off with a road game in Toronto against the very, very impressive, and I don't want to say surprising because they were always a decent team. I guess they're surprising because they're still showing that they're a better team in the Eastern Conference. But anyway, the surprising Raptors. Look, the Nets hung around in that game, but at the end of the day, they just couldn't get over the hump. The Raptors were the better team. As of now, I think the Raptors are the better team, especially in Toronto. And like I said, the Raptors have played really well without Kawhi Leonard. Obviously, we all know he's gone. He's in Los Angeles with the Clippers. But Siakam has stepped up. VanVleet has stepped up. The whole team, the whole team has really stepped up. And look, the Raptors are one of the top 4 teams right now in the East. Will they be there come the end of the year? I don't know. But to me, they're definitely a playoff team. But that was a kind of an expected loss, in my opinion, by the Nets. Even though I was hoping they could maybe upset the Raptors. But, that didn't happen. But however, they did manage to upset the 76ers the very next game. And that was just a great win. That win just put a smile on my face. I know Joel Embiid didn't play in that game, but that doesn't change the fact that the 76ers should still be the favorites, right? The 76ers are still supposed to be the second best team in the East, even though right now they're only, I think they're the sixth seed right now ahead of the Nets. They're either the 5th or the 6th seed, and the Nets are they're just a couple games ahead of the Nets right now in the standings. But they're supposed to be the big bad 76ers, second best team in the East next to the Bucks. So, hey, listen, that was a great win by the Nets. Everyone played well. It had a lot of you know, characteristics and similarities to game one of the playoffs last year. Similar type of situation where everyone's like, 76ers are going to win, and the Nets just came out and hit them hard from the beginning and basically blew them out for most of the game and basically really embarrassed them last year in game one of the playoffs. And it had that type of feel to it. It was just a great game by the Nets, one of the best wins of the year. So that was a very feel good moment for the Nets and beating a team that, let's be honest, is and should be better than them. But the Nets were able to prevail. Then they had what I like to call the ugliest win in the history of Nets. Well, that's not true. I can't necessarily say that, but like the ugliest win this year for sure. And that was the game against the Pelicans. That game was just ugly by both teams. No one could score. No one could do anything. It was just an ugly, ugly, ugly game. But in the end, the Pelicans just sucked worse than the Nets. And the Nets managed to win. Dinwiddie made a couple big plays, and the Pelicans couldn't. And like I said, the Nets won. And that's a win to me the Nets needed to have. Because to me, there's 5 teams in the NBA that the Nets should always beat. Because look, in the NBA, anyone could beat anyone on any given night. I get it. I understand that. That's the way it is. That's why you play the games. But there's 5 teams that I feel you should almost always beat unless there's some kind of other circumstances. And that's the Pelicans, the Hawks, the Knicks, even though the Knicks, I feel like, will always play the Nets tough because of the rivalry, the Wizards, and the Warriors. And we all know the Warriors, despite how great they've been in the past with the injuries, obviously. Those 5 teams, to me, are absolutely the 5 worst teams in the NBA. All the other teams that I believe the Nets are better than, they still could have good nights on certain occasions and shock you and beat you. But those are the 5 teams that if you're the Nets, you have to beat every time you play. Well, the Nets beat the Pelicans the first time they played them, and then they beat them again the second time, even though it was ugly, but they managed to hold on and do it. So, and that's the key, because you can't lose to teams that you should definitely beat. All right, you just can't. So, like I said, ugly game, but the Nets managed to pull that one out. And then they had what I want to say is a disappointing loss, but I still don't feel that bad about it, and that was against the Spurs in San Antonio. Look, the Spurs are struggling this year. They're 11-17, which is almost unheard of, and it's almost hard to imagine the Spurs being under 500 with Greg Popovich and so on and so forth. But they are, and they've really struggled. But I don't know. I just don't believe that team is going to be under 500 come the end of the season. To me, that team is a 45-win team, and so. I mean, they got to start winning some damn games, though, if they want to get to 45 wins, the Spurs. But, I mean, look, they still got LaMarcus Aldridge. They still got DeMar DeRozan. We see they got Patty Mills. And, he's, can catch fire like that, which is a big reason how the Nets lost that game, was because the Nets had the lead, and then Patty Mills came in and started making every shot known to man. I don't know. I'm very shocked that the Spurs are playing that poorly this year. But all in all, the Nets still had a 14-point lead in that game, and they probably should have won. But like I said, Patty Mills lit a spark. He was making a bunch of shots. The whole team followed suit, and next thing you know, classic Nets performance. Nets blow the lead. It's a back-and-forth game at the end, and then the Nets fall apart within the last 2 or 3 minutes. Spurs end up winning by 10. Look, like I said, it's a disappointing loss because of how the Spurs have played this year. But when you think about the fact that the Spurs are still, to me, the Spurs are still the Spurs, and to me, they're the best 6 games under 500 team in the league, and maybe one of the best 6 games under 500 teams in the last 10 years, just because I just don't think the team is as bad as their record is. I think the Spurs are a very good team. So at the end of the day, the Nets lose in San Antonio, and that's another thing. At home, the Spurs are always much better. So, like I said, I'm not that disappointed in that loss. I kind of expected the Nets to lose that game. However, there is one other note to talk about that game, and this was probably the worst thing about that game, and that was the injury to David Nwaba. The Achilles injury, the torn Achilles that he suffered in that game. that is a critical, crucial, hard, disastrous, I don't know what you want to say, rough blow to the Nets. And obviously David Nwaba. I mean, David Nwaba was going to be this year's Joe Harris for me. And Spencer Dinwiddie. You know, David Nwaba was going to be this year's guy who comes out of nowhere and has a great year after he's been overlooked by several teams, which the Nets always seem to have someone step up like that. Like, David Nwaba was looking so good. He was bringing energy. He was making threes. He was making big plays. He was just everything you wanted from a role player, because that's what he was. And his injury is going to be rough for the Nets, because right now they don't have anyone who can plug in and play the type of basketball that David Nwaba was playing. I mean, who knows where the hell Kyrie Irving is? Karis LeVert is still out. Right now, Kuruk seems to be the guy who's going to get the minutes, but at the end of the day, that's a critical blow. And now there is some rumors that the Nets might actually bring back Iman Shumpert, since now with Nwaba going out, they might be able to get an injury exception from the league, which I had talked about, I believe, in my last NetsBoy episode. Because Nwaba's going to be out for the year and even longer. We all know Achilles injuries can take forever, and Kevin Durant can help, hopefully, maybe coach Nwaba through it and explain what he needs to do, because, we all know that's what Durant's going through right now. So just maybe, though, Shumpert will be back with the Nets. Who knows? We'll see. I haven't heard anything yet. Maybe it'll happen sooner rather than later, because that was the rumors, that they'll get the injury exception, and then Shumpert would join the team back, and then, Shumpert's back. Which I'm not against, because like I said, I liked what Iman Shumpert did with the Nets. But just losing David Nwaba and the energy and the toughness that he was bringing is just very upsetting. And it's upsetting for him himself, because he was finally getting an opportunity to prove his skill set and be a regular rotational player. And he was playing so well. So, it's a shame. We wish David Nwaba luck. This could be the last time we see him with the Nets, because he did sign a one-year deal. I think if I'm the Nets, it's hard to not be cautious. And I don't know. Part of me wants to say, Nets, sign the guy to like a 3-year, $9 million contract next year, because, of how well he played. But then the other part of me is like, he's coming off an Achilles injury. So it's kind of like, good luck to you. Especially Nwaba, who's very explosive. He doesn't have a true skill set to overcompensate for a lack of, of athleticism that you lose with Achilles injuries. Unlike Durant, which is why people believe Durant's going to be okay, because, he's got that height and skill that he might be able to overcome not being as athletic. But you know what? We wish David Nwaba the best, but that was a critical blow for the Nets. And like I said, we'll see if they bring Shumpert back or they do something else with the rotation. So that was a double whammy losing to the Spurs. Then the Nets had a game against the Hawks. And I'm watching this game. And remember, the Hawks are one of those 5 teams that the Nets should never lose to. I'm watching this game, rooting for my boy Vince Carter, who, by the way, just doesn't play. And I don't know what the hell the Hawks are doing. That team is all sorts of screwed up. No one is there to see anybody other than Trae Young and Vince Carter. So when those guys should always be on the court. I'm sorry. People go to those games to watch the Hawks play. When the Hawks are on the road, all the fans are going to those games to see either Trae Young, because he's supposed to be so explosive and great, even though I think he's a little overrated, and Vince Carter, because this is last year, and Vince Carter plays only 8 minutes and only takes 3 shots. And half the time he doesn't even play. Like, I've seen other games where he was benched and then inconsistent minutes. Nobody's there to see, Kevin Huerter. No one's there to see Cam Reddish. No one's there to see Bruno Fernandez. Was that his name? Bruno Fernando, whatever the center guy is. No one's there to see Alan Crabb, okay? Hawks, okay? I don't even know the coach's name of the Hawks. That's bad. I knew it. I knew it a couple minutes ago and just slipped my mind. That's how irrelevant they are. No one cares about any of that. Play Vince Carter. That's why everybody is going to that game. He played 8 minutes. 8 minutes. And, of course, the Nets were getting their butts handed to them. They were down by as much as 18, and I'm thinking to myself, this is terrible. The Nets are losing by 18 going into the third quarter. Vince Carter's barely even playing. What a double disaster. And then, all of a sudden, everything just flipped. Except Well, that's not true because Vince Carter still didn't really play, though he played toward the very end. But the Nets just all of a sudden became great. And, led by Garrett Temple and the second unit, lifted the Nets out from being down 18 to down 6. Dinwiddie came back because he had 5 fouls, and Dinwiddie went off and took him home, scoring 39 points in the game, 16 in the fourth quarter, and the Nets outscored the Hawks like 35-14 in the fourth and actually won by 10. Like, the biggest comeback of the year, 18 points, one of the better wins of the year, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, this is an example of when a bad team like the Hawks find ways to lose, and why the Nets are and really should be considered one of the better teams. When the better team is playing up against the worst team, an 18-point deficit is very easy to overcome. The better teams usually win when that happens, when the momentum starts shifting, because the worst teams don't know how to handle it. And that's what we saw in that game. And it was just a great win by the Nets. It really was. It made me feel a lot better. Like I said, unfortunately, Vince Carter still didn't do anything. And I hope the Hawks trade Vince. I really do. But I hope they do it sooner rather than later, because I am planning on buying tickets to, obviously, the Hawks-Nets game in Barclays Center the next time they play, which would be the last time Vince Carter plays in the Barclays Center and against the Nets. And obviously, I want to go to that game being a huge Vince Carter fan. So I still got to buy those tickets. But hopefully the the Hawks, if they do trade Vince Carter, they do it before I buy those tickets so I can buy the tickets to the correct game so I can see him. But they probably won't trade him because I don't know if there's a lot of trade value out there for Vince Carter. I have no idea. But either way, Hawks should play him more. And either way, the Nets won. So the Nets went 3-2. Good wins against good teams. And then, and winning games that they should be winning, and they're currently 16-13, going into this nice little holiday break before they play the Knicks coming up on the day after Christmas, also known as Boxing Day. For those who I believe that's a Canadian holiday. Beside the point. On the 26th against the Knicks. So that's the next game. So looking at the next couple games for the Nets, like I said, 26th they play the Knicks. Once again, one of those 5 teams that the Nets should beat, but I never, ever want to count the Knicks out against the Nets just because they should come out aggressive. I mean, the Nets have stolen a lot of the Knicks' thunder this year, and I know they'll never fully take it because the Knicks are the Knicks and they'll always be the more relevant team, even though they really shouldn't be. But, the Nets should still win that game. But then they got Houston at Houston, and then the Timberwolves in Minnesota, and then Dallas in Dallas before coming home against Toronto. So the next 5 games, the Nets could easily go 1-4 the next 5 games. I feel like they should beat the Timberwolves, and I feel like they should beat the Knicks. So I feel like they should really go 2-3 the next 5 games. But who knows? And Kyrie Irving needs to come back soon. I don't know what's going on with him. Last I heard, he still hasn't been cleared for contact. He's still just kind of doing basketball skills and drills, but hasn't been cleared for contact, which is just like, this is the longest day-to-day injury in the history of the world. Like, whatever. I really hope that Kyrie's, when he does come back, which is soon, that he's like 100% and just starts dropping 40 points again like he did before he got hurt. Because that's the only way I can justify how long he's been out now, is that, he's hurt. If this was the playoffs, he'd probably play, but he wants to make sure he's 100% before he comes back. And because the Nets are still winning and Dinwiddie's playing really well, he doesn't feel the pressure to need to come back until he's 100%. That's my theory. I hope it's true, but I hope that he comes back soon because, like I said, this stretch of games could be rough for the Nets. They're 16-13, but they could very well be back under 500 after these next 5 games if things don't go well for the Nets. So we'll see what happens. So, Kyrie, if you're watching this, which I've said this every time, I strongly doubt, but would be pretty cool if he was. I know you want to get 100%. I want you to be at 100%, but please come back sooner rather than later because this is getting scary, all right? All right, the Nets almost lost to the Hawks and almost lost to the Pelicans. So, We need you, all right? All right, there you have it. This video gone way too long with a lot of rambling about irrelevant stuff. So let's wrap it up. Let me know what you guys think moving forward. If you believe that the Nets should win more than 2 games coming up, if you think that they should have won the game against the Spurs, what you think about the Nwaba injury, if you think they're going to get shumpered or whatever, if you think Vince Carter should play more with the Hawks. Let me know what you guys think. And until the next NetsBoy episode, this is, which will probably be in a while, in at least a week or two, because, the Nets don't play for another 4 days, so there's not going to be a lot to talk about in a week, so might be another week or two. But keep your eyes open to the next NetsBoy episode. And until then, this is NetsBoy wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. And if you do not celebrate Christmas, I wish you a happy whatever it is that you celebrate. And signing off.